Hello and welcome back to the Chip Lunch Podcast. It's always fun when I get to interrupt Joel and talk over him, which is very fun. We've got a guest. This is crazy. We haven't had a guest in a little while, have we?
I'm just seeing how long I can not talk.
That's fine.
Sure, that was
Finally cut Joel out of the podcast.
Yeah, that's right. After I did my solo one the other week.
Yes.
We haven't had a guest for quite a while. Since the Darvell boys, I think.
Sure.
Because we had my solo one and then us last week.
We had Rob on, the second one of...
Yeah, was he before or after the Darvells?
I feel like that was after.
Can't even remember.
Part 2.
Anyway.
Rob was on Chip Lunch.
Different Rob. Though we have had that Rob on.
He has been on.
I listened to that Rob's Chip Lunch podcast on my way to Brie.
Very cool. Welcome, Courtney.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. How many actual episodes did you listen on the way to... Because you were at Brie last week?
I was at Brie from Friday till Monday.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the middle of that when we weren't traveling.
Yeah. But it's a long drive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like 10 hours?
10 hours. So we did like home to Dubbo and then Dubbo to Brie.
Yeah, cool.
And then we were in Brie for 24 hours and then Brie to Dubbo and then Dubbo to home.
Yep.
So there was lots of chatting time and lots of Chip Lunch time. So I think we listened to 4 Chip Lunch podcasts.
And you tell me before you listened to Ange's.
Yep.
Who else? You said Rob.
Ange, Rob. We listened to... Who else was it that I said?
I don't know. I can't remember now. Very memorable episodes.
No,
Obviously.
it was. It was a good one. Ange, Rob. Oh, we listened to part of Manders.
Yep.
And...
When you say, so when it was Manders, you just like, this is boring?
No. No, we loved it. It was the one where they switched it onto you.
Oh, so it's actually mine.
It's your episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And then...
So then you switched that off in the middle of it. It's just terrible.
No, we didn't switch it off. We just arrived.
We just arrived at a place where we wanted to switch it off.
We've got 15 minutes till we arrive. Let's check if this one's any good.
And one other, but I can't remember whose it was.
That's right. Thanks for listening to it. That's cool.
It was great.
What was my other... How was... I always don't pronounce this right.
Brewarrina.
Yes.
Yeah.
How was Brewarrina? Because you went for the carols.
We did. Yes. So it was awesome. We absolutely loved it. I have never been before. So it was my first time up there, down there?
Up there.
Up there.
Fucking up. It's just northwest, right?
Yeah.
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 Just got to say up.
If you were going down, you'd go all the way around. That would
Yeah.
take much longer than 10 hours, I think.
Like all the way, like past Antarctica and then back up the other way.
up
It's a long way.
And
that would be a much longer way.
Across the North Pole and then back down via Asia to Brewarrina. No wonder it took 10 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Up there. So yeah, we had a really fun time. I went with my dad and we hung out with the community of Brie. We went to their carol service, which was awesome. It was so hot though.
Yeah.
It was 46 degrees.
Because it was hot that day, even in Sydney, right?
It was so hot. But it was definitely worth going to. They put on this epic fireworks display.
Oh, really?
It was so cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I really just love how that community up there in Brie just loved Jesus so much. And you could feel that in their carol service. They just wanted his name to be glorified. And I just loved when they got onto the stage, the people from the church, and they were like, hey everyone, we're here to sing some songs. We don't know any carols, so we're just going to sing songs about Jesus. And it was great. It was just so genuine. And I think that's what I said to Dad on our way home, that I just loved how genuine they were and how real they were. It was awesome.
Yeah, sick. That's really cool.
And another thing that we did on the way home was we went to a place called Ningen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we visited the Big Bogan.
Yes.
There is a giant tin bogan in Ningen, and so we took some photos there.
Really? Because there's a town in that way called Bogan, West Bogan.
Yes.
Right?
But it's literally this bloke in a muscle tee with a dog and a tinny, and he's 6 meters tall.
I was going to say, hey, how big is it?
Yeah,
6 meters
pretty
tall.
big.
Yeah.
The big things, like the big...
Big prawn.
Big
Banana.
prawn.
Big banana.
Big banana. Big bogan.
Big merino.
Big marine.
There
Have you
are
seen the big merino?
many big
Is that
things.
just a sheep?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
big sheep.
Yeah, the Big Bogan was a highlight.
Very cool. Who did you go with? So you went with your dad.
I did.
Who else was going?
Yeah, Dad was in the car with me.
All the time.
Dad drove.
Yeah.
And then we came back with Dad and Adam Darvell.
Yep.
And then Stu and Eli were there. And Rob and Roz from Sunday morning.
Cool.
Yep.
And the Wares. So it was just all the boy Wares.
Oh, okay.
So Banjo, Ted and Brad.
Yep.
And Amos and Cam Miller.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think that's it. Oh, no. The Gales. Jono and
cool.
Julian John Gale.
Oh, pretty big contingent though. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it was awesome.
Yeah, fantastic.
I bought this like spray thing, like sprayer, because it was so hot.
Oh,
and
for
I was just
water?
spraying people.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what were you spraying?
and
Pesticides.
no water. It was extremely cooling.
Yeah, so well, it would be. I wish I had that last Saturday too. It was so hot.
Yeah, it was so hot.
Was it like that full dry heat though? It wasn't.
Yeah, it was dry heat. And if you sprayed the ground, like I sprayed the ground a few times, it literally just disappeared within seconds.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We saw lots of fun wildlife, which was cool.
Like what?
We saw a brolga. We saw an emu just running along the side of the road. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
We saw a goat, a black goat, and I got very excited about it and filmed it for Stu and Adam. And in the background of the video, it's just me being, goat, goat. I got very excited. And 2 green tree frogs on our step.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was very
I
cool.
like frogs.
Me too.
When they're not in the house though.
I've never had a frog in my house.
I had one in the house the other day.
Really?
Yeah, the other 2 weekends ago. It was on the bloody toilet.
Oh no!
And then like we're trying to get it, and it kept jumping into the toilet. We're like, well, stop tempting us to flush you. And then eventually it got out again.
Yeah,
and I
cool.
think we removed it, but
You removed the frog.
yeah, actually Karen did. So
She's so brave.
So
Jeez.
brave.
so brave. Well, let's start with the first question.
Yeah.
Which is, how do you like to eat your hot chips?
So that's become very complex.
Ooh.
I like it when people are like, oh, that's a really difficult question.
So just after we got married, my husband became a celiac. So we had to
I
find...
like it by choice.
Not by choice.
So I know, that's what it sounded like.
So
James has been on the podcast.
Yes, James became a celiac. So we had to find gluten-free, celiac-safe hot chips that are good. And that was rough.
Yep.
But we have found them. Yeah, so there's a place in Janali. It's called Bella Cibo. And they are
Bella Cibo.
pizza, pasta, fried chicken, chips, the whole variety shop.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah, it's great. And everything is celiac safe. And the chips are absolutely delicious. They're super crunchy and they have a whole lot of chicken salt. So, yeah, crunchy chips with chicken salt is what I will always go for. But it's even better if James can also share in those chips.
Very cool. Any sauce with those chicken salt chips?
Tomato sauce.
Yes, I agree with the sauce choice.
Yep. Are you a plain salt man?
Yes.
Have you not
He's
realised
plain
this after
guy.
listening
A plain kind of guy.
Have you not realised this after listening to 17,000 Chip Lunch episodes?
You don't always mention it.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like he does.
It's more just like a disappointed voice if someone says chicken salt.
Yes.
Like,
But a very overly excited voice if someone
plain
does say
salt.
plain salt. I feel like plain salt has been catching up massively
We'll have to-
towards the end of this year. I feel like
yeah.
chicken salt had a healthy lead that has been eaten away at lately. So
Brayden,
I'm glad to be back on the scoreboard.
do you have a salt preference?
Yes, but it's not my episode.
I would like to know.
Oh, it's chicken salt.
Yeah, obviously. Chicken salt is so much better.
Yeah, I think
I don't-
Fish and I are carrying the chicken salt flag proudly.
Yeah. We have to check with Sandy what the tally is. 'Cause
Yeah,
Sandy
yeah.
has been tallying.
Really?
Yeah,
She
yeah.
she has tallied, and she brought it to bear on her episode.
Yes.
But obviously that was a while ago. So
yeah,
there's a
so we'll
lot
have
of
to get
episodes.
Sandy back on to to update the tally.
Well, you know, like I said, you can't mess with the classics.
No.
I'm maybe a plain guy, but I'm a classic guy.
Classic guy.
Right. Main question.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney, how did you become a Christian?
Yeah. So I've kind of always been surrounded by Christians. When I was quite young, I had this really good friend at my old church, and she was in her 80s, and we became like genuinely good friends. And I just asked her lots of questions about God and about the Bible, and I think I was 4. So we were like, I've always been interested in God and things of God. And when I was little, she encouraged me to just keep searching. I wrote her a book that she took to, so she was a missionary, and she took it to the people that she was sharing with, and it just said like, God made animals, God made stars. I was little.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've always
Still
loved, yeah, it's still true. I've always loved God and the things of God. But I guess for a long time it was just my family loves God, and so I guess I do too.
Yeah.
But as I grew up and went into high school a little bit, I started questioning and wondering whether that was something that I did want to believe in myself. And on a camp at my previous church, I gave my life to Christ for the first time. And I think that the thing that really stuck with me from that camp was, so you need to wear your Christianity as a badge of honor, and it's something that we don't need to shy away from, and we don't need to keep a secret, but we want to share it. So that's when I really felt like I made a decision for myself for the first time. And then, you know, high school happened, and questions continue to come up in your head, and I was definitely living for Jesus, but I still had things that I wasn't too sure about. And the big kicker was uni and leaving my Christian school, my Christian bubble, and going and finding my own feet in a space where not everybody knew Jesus, and it was very different for me. And I started really digging into theology and can I believe this is true, and questioning and asking questions to people that were different to me and trying to understand their perspectives. But it was through my uni Christian group that I began sharing Jesus with others and began to explore those questions and get answers and feel really confident that Jesus is Lord and that I wanted to live for him. And yeah, my uni Christian group was kind of how I feel like I felt God's presence the most clearly, and I could really feel him talking to me, and I could feel him allowing me to share his word with others. And yeah, it was pretty awesome. I loved my Christian group. I went on a few mission trips with them. One that I was a part of, and then one that I ran. And they were really scary, but they were a huge step of faith, and they allowed me to really put my faith into practice. And then, yeah, I've just been on a journey with him ever since, and I now get to share him with kids, and I love it. It's great.
Well, that was quite a good overview.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask you though, what made you in high school start questioning certain things? Was it just more as an example of, I suppose, grappling with your faith?
Yeah, I think it was that I was at a Christian school, and being at a Christian school, as much as I absolutely loved it, every minute of it, I just feel like they just kind of expect everybody to believe that God is real. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was something that I wanted to believe for myself, and it wasn't just something that I believed because the people around me did. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's kind of when I went on a journey of questioning. And I think when your friends start to fall away or look elsewhere, that also assists you in being like, oh, I need to make sure this is something that I really want to go through with. Yeah. So
yeah, that makes sense. Because you said that you became a Christian on a camp.
Yeah.
But the thing was about like wearing your Christianity is like be very outward with it.
Yeah.
But do you think you were hiding it prior to that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Not hiding it so much because I was in primary school. So
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't really like trying to hide the fact that I was a Christian by any means. And I was at a Christian school. So again, like there was no reason to hide it. But I just don't think that I was seeking out opportunities with my dance friends and my basketball friends and friends that I had where I could have shared God's word or invited them to kids' church or whatever it may be. I just was kind of keeping that to myself a little bit more.
What do you think that was? Like, you were only young.
I was young and I was scared. And I think that...
Yeah, you mentioned that before you were scared. What were you scared of?
Yeah. I think that I was just scared of what people thought of me and being like quite a nervous person. I just didn't want to lose friends. And I think that I thought that if I shared my faith, I might lose people. So I didn't want that to happen. And so I just didn't share it. I just kept it to myself. Yeah.
Why do you think that you were worried about losing friends? And I reckon I'm asking this question because I watch my daughter Everly, who is very social and very have to be friends with everyone. That she's going to come to a point where she has to make a similar decision that you're talking about. So I'm just asking from your perspective, why were you so worried about losing friends? I suppose like everyone would be worried about losing friends, but what was it for you?
I think that a big part of my journey in life as well is just like wanting to be liked. And so for me, I just didn't want my faith to impact that.
Being liked.
When I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just a big moment of me kind of finding my way in, does it really matter if I'm liked? And does it really matter if I have everybody liking me all the time if I have Jesus? And I think that was kind of in those uni years that I really found that to be the case. And so I would say that I was a Christian the whole way through, but I just, and I believed God was real the whole way through. It was just different levels of me trying to find where I was at with him and how I would live for him in that space, I think.
And when you became a Christian, what camp was that? Was that was a Menai Anglican you went to? And what was the camp called?
Camp 1.
Camp 1?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very
Camp
cool.
1. Yeah. And the preacher was awesome and I feel like I learned a lot that week. And
where was it at? Do you know where it was?
Where? Yeah, it was at Deer Park.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
What changed for you then? Oh, that's a question I always like to ask is when people do become it, what changed for you then? Was it not being worried about losing friends or not worrying about being liked as much?
Yeah, I think in high school, like I was still a bit worried about losing friends, but it became more important to me that I put God first. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, cool. How old were you then?
13.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
It's cool how many people's stories really come together at camps. It's
Yeah,
fun how
that's true.
Yeah, you have that extended time to like hang out in community and dwell on things. I think you don't stop. Lots of people don't stop very often, especially when you're 13. You don't really have that like condensed time of thinking about something deeply.
Yeah, well,
like
I became a Christian before my first week away, but week away was when I made the real commitment,
Yeah.
for example, because you're getting Bible talks and being in community with people who either want you to grow in your faith or want you to become a Christian.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and at Camp 1, they also do like quiet times in the mornings.
Yep.
And that really helped me to explore what it would be like to live for God when I wasn't at camp and how I could do that in my own time and space as well. And I think the big kind of moment for me of being like, yeah, this is pretty awesome. And not only am I doing this journey of Christianity on my own, but I'm doing it in community, was the last night of camp we had extended worship, which I guess is kind of like a band night that we do at youth now. But it was just like, we did like 10 songs and we just like really sung the words and I really felt, I feel like I generally feel closest to God through music. And so it was a pretty awesome night, because that was the night that I really committed, and then I followed it up with that. And so it was just like, yep, God is real, that he's here. Like, this is awesome. So
no, that's really special. And we didn't really touch on it too much, but you grew up in a Christian family.
I did.
And going to church basically from when you knew you were going to church.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. I grew up in a Christian family. Mum and dad were always reading the Bible with us at the dinner table, and they were living our Christian lives and supporting us in doing the same. And they said that from the minute I was born, they prayed that I would be a Christian and that I would live a Christian life. And so, yeah, they were just trying to live that out in everything that they did. So I learned a lot from mum and dad. Yeah.
What's it look like studying the Bible together around the table for you guys? What was that like?
Kay and I loved it. Yeah, Kay's my sister.
Yep.
We would have dinner, and then mum would get either, like when we were younger, kind of like those picture Bibles and read a story from that. And then as we got older, it was kind of devotional books and or like the church devotionals that we were going through, and just doing those together and praying together was a big part of our family.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how formative do you think that is, having that? Because the reason I asked, Braden and I didn't grow up doing that.
Yeah. I think that I would do that with my kids one day. Like, I think that it was a really useful way of knowing that my family trusted God and that they knew God, and doing it together was a really beautiful blessing, and I think that it brings you closer together, and so I definitely think that I would do it. Yeah.
It also, I think, is a good example of, similar to you saying your friend that was 80 plus years old, was it's like it's okay to start to think about your faith rather than only just go, this is what it is. And it sounds like some of your story is like, well, I knew all the, that's often the story of people who've grown up in a Christian family. I know all the stories, but then I had to take it on.
Yeah, absolutely.
For myself.
And for me, a lot of the time it was like, oh, my story's so boring. Like, I grew up in a Christian family, and then I went to a Christian school, and I like had all of these, but as I've spoken to more people that have come to faith later in life, I've just realized that, like, what a blessing. Like, what a blessing that it was to be able to question things and learn things about God and never be judged and never have to go through an experience where I wasn't allowed to, share God in my home or in my school. So, yeah. I realize now that it was a blessing. It wasn't something to be ashamed of, that my story was boring. It was awesome that it's boring.
Yeah.
Because it means,
but it's not boring.
That's
Can you remember like one big question that you asked when you were younger that you like kind of held on to for a long time and trying to work out?
Yeah, I can remember lots of questions that I asked.
That's great.
I think that it was all of those really complex things that aren't necessarily a salvation issue, but they are things that we want to question. So things like, was creation actually 7 days? And like, how do I know that my faith is assured? And all of those big questions that people tend to ask when they're younger. So
what about, can you remember one that was like, once you got the answers, you're like, I don't know why I was thinking that question for so long?
Yeah, most of them. Like once I just realized that the answers to the questions weren't changing my relationship with God, that was the big kicker for me. It was just like, it doesn't matter what the answer to this question is. Like, God loves me anyway. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And I suppose that would help you a lot in terms of what we were talking about before, about worrying about friends and worrying what you would look like to other people. Or again, if you keep having the question answered, doesn't matter because of God.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would make a big difference.
Yeah.
So then let's talk like later high school.
Yep.
How did that transpire for you as you kind of grew in your faith? And then it said you said that like some people fell away and weren't keen on being Christians and things like that. So what does it look like as you're starting to finish high school?
I guess similarly to a lot of people when they're finishing up high school, I was really worried about doing well at
like
school.
Exams and stuff.
Yeah. And I think that I got quite caught up in my own head during that time. But I also think that, like, as I watched friends kind of not serve Jesus or fall away, it was really heartbreaking at first because I was just like, why? Like, I've explored all of these things. Like, God is so real. Why is this something that you don't want to do anymore? But I wanted to make sure that I was the kind of person that would still love them even if they weren't around at church anymore. So I've made that, like, quite a key thing. Like, if I've ever got friends that maybe aren't coming anymore, I still try and see them outside of church or whatever, so that they still have a Christian friend that loves them and is involved with them and that kind of thing. But yeah, as I questioned things, all my friends questioned things late in high school, and we were all caught up in our marks and the HSC and all of that stuff. But I had a really good core group of friends that were Christians, and we loved each other well, and I think that was a blessing. What
difference do you think it makes, like, because we've had a few people on recently about finishing the HSC, like Macy and the Darvell twins. What do you think of the difference knowing Jesus makes to you getting through that time? Even though you said you think you got a bit caught up in it. Well, tell us, why do you say so much first? And then tell us what is the difference Jesus makes for that?
Yeah, I puked before my legal studies exam.
Yeah.
Like,
I've thrown up before an exam.
Yeah,
too.
I just got so anxious about exams, and I'm really grateful that I never have to sit an exam ever again. But yeah, I think that knowing Jesus takes some of the power of exams away, because you can know that no matter what happens in the exam, no matter what happens after the exam period, like, he knows what's going to happen. He's got a plan, and, like, he is the one that is going to guide you through those next steps. And so if you bomb an exam, like, all good.
Did you bomb an exam?
No.
I don't feel like you would because of that.
Yeah, I worked really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the exam that I bombed the most was my physics HSC exam. It was like the last exam, and I barely left any time to study for it. And it was so hard.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I don't even remember doing this in school, like, during the year. I don't. So.
Yeah, I did.
It's.
Ironically, bomb my studies of religion a little bit.
What does that mean?
So, like, we did, like, not just Christianity. We also did Islam and Judaism. And so it was really interesting studying those other religions, but there are a lot of things to remember.
Right.
I definitely didn't do terribly, but I would have liked to have done better. Yeah.
Don't we all, though? That always happens, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a plan of what you wanted to, or an idea of what you wanted to do when you finished school?
Yeah. Yeah.
You would definitely wanted to be, because you're a teacher.
Yeah.
You definitely wanted to be a teacher?
Yeah.
Did you?
I wanted to be a teacher from the day I started school.
Really?
I'm not joking.
Why?
Yeah. I just loved school. And I loved, like, playing schools, and like, Katie and I would do that from when we were little.
Yep.
And I loved just everything about the community that school brings and the opportunities that it is to get to share things with younger people. And I led kids church from when I was 11 and maybe a bit older. Maybe I was 12. And I always wanted to be a teacher.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I was saying to my wife Karen last night, because my kids got their reports yesterday, and I was like reading the comments, and they say blah blah blah,
blah blah blah.
They say I know you would know what it's like to write report comments, but what's interesting is, like, I just think it'd be fascinating to actually be there with them, but them not know, like, spend a day observing my children at school and not be there. You
would be surprised, I think.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, it would be really interesting to see what happens. So I don't know why I thought of that. Oh, it's because Everly likes to play schools as well. But, you know, you see these comments, you're like, oh, yeah, I can understand that's the case. But it's like, what does it look like? But if you enjoy, there's something, isn't there? It's interesting because we've gone through school, but then to see your kids go to school, you're like, are they having the same experiences? What's their experience like? I don't know why I went that way, but you said you're leading kids' church at the same time.
Yeah.
So from 11.
I think I was a bit older, year 7.
Yeah, okay.
So it actually was really cute. So the girls that I led when I left high school were in kindergarten, and I led them preschool, kindergarten, and then when I left high school, they were in year 7, and so then I led them at youth group.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So I led them in kindergarten, and then I led them in youth group. So I think that's
cool.
really cute.
Yeah, that is cool.
And I'm still close with some of those girls now, which is nice.
That's really cool.
I'm going Christmas light looking with one of them and her family on the weekend.
Oh,
Just
excellent.
fun.
Well, take some photos.
Yeah, we do it every year. So it's like, it's super cute that we've kept that relationship going.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
So what's church leading? Sorry, Braden. I realise that you haven't had much to say in this episode.
Feel free to talk, Bray.
I will when I have something to say.
Well, often you do ask this question, what does church look like for our guest at a certain time?
I'll have to come up with a new question then.
Okay. So you were involved in church from a very, very young age. And then, so what's it like leading for you? Mm-hmm. Why is it important for you? Because it sounds like you were doing it for a very long time.
Yeah.
Can you speak to, I think it's an important thing to think about, because I didn't start leading until I was like 2 years out of high school. Why do you think it's important to be leading and serving at church?
Why do I think it's important? I think that it's just such a big part of community leading. I think that it's community with the kids that you're leading, community with other like fellow believers that also love Jesus and like want to serve. And it's the friendships that you make through that that I think are really precious. And and all through the times where I've led, like some of the people that I've led with have become my best mates. And I just think that serving God together is such a blessing. So yeah, that's why I think leading is so important, but also just like passing on things of God to the next generation is also really awesome, and getting to then be friends with them after that. And I just love that about Solis, is the way that I feel like they follow through. Like Solis doesn't just kind of leave them at the end of year 10 and let them go. We have follow through, and we have the ability to be able to continue being friends with them after that.
Yeah.
So the girls that I'm leading at the moment are going into year 10 now, next year. And I love them so much. And I've just loved leading them. They are just joy, and I can't wait to be friends with them going forward. And I look forward so much to hearing them on Chip Lunch podcasts and seeing them lead. And I just think that this group of girls is just going to be such a blessing to our church. So
it's something that I've been thinking about a fair bit lately, is just the difference it makes, I think, to your growth as a Christian when you do choose to serve in whatever capacity. It could be youth leading or whatever at church. It's just like this, I don't know, maybe Braden, you can help me articulate it better, or Courtney, sorry, but you're not getting paid. Well, I am in some respects. with Braden and I in some respects, but you're not getting paid, but you're like, we're doing this together, but it's because of Jesus. And it's an extremely special, I don't know, experience. No, it's not an experience. It's extremely, like, to be knowing that, like, Jesus is the ultimate servant, and he's using his example to just be serving other people in whatever capacity it is, has a real, I can't think of the right word. I don't know if you can help me with that, but
I don't know. I think it's just where you make that transition from, like, I want to think of a better word, maybe like consuming,
being
like,
served.
Yeah, you make
from
that
being served to serving. Yeah,
like, and yeah, you're going from being someone who's maybe consuming that community, that aspects of that community to creating. Like, I think there's nothing that really replaces spending time doing something together and being involved in something happening. I feel like nothing gives you like ownership or membership of something like making it actually happen. And the fact that, that it is mostly volunteer and there's lots of people who are just doing it out of love for people that they might not necessarily hang out with or know, other than the fact that they love Jesus, is pretty. Yeah, I think there's not many things that witness quite like it. Yeah.
Which again, there's nothing quite like Jesus.
No.
Because Courtney, a couple of times so far you've mentioned community. It was either at school or at church. Why do you think about and love being part of that so much?
I just think that you can't be Christian alone. Like, I mean, you can, but it's so hard to be a Christian by yourself, and having Christian role models and then people that look up to you within the church just keeps you so accountable, but it also allows you to just share life with and faith and your story with people that also love Jesus, and I love that about community. And I feel like I grow more when I'm in community as well, because I learn a lot from others, but I also can ask questions, and I can just be curious about things with others, and I think that that's why I think it's so important.
Yeah, God blesses us with each other. It's so awesome. And it's funny how, you'll be struggling with something or wrestling or just trying to figure something out, and someone else can just walk into and go, oh, what about this? And you're like, oh, it's just that other, even if it's not a wildly different perspective, you're like, oh, wow, maybe like that. And it's really cool how you can, I think it's also easier sometimes to see God working in other people's lives than your own until,
That almost reminds you that he's working in your life too.
Yeah.
Do you think, tell me what you guys think about this, do you think it's like a very tiny glimpse of what we were actually made to be? Like we're actually meant to be in a whole relationship with God and each other. So we get I always think like week away is a very small, like I said, very, 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 very tiny glimpse of, we're meant to be in relationship with each other. We're meant to be in relationship with God, and to be spending time with people that have been transformed by the gospel. That you get that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, you're spending time with other people that God's given the Holy Spirit to and is working in their lives. So I think you will see glimpses of things. Obviously, it's not going to be a
like
shadow
this
of
cumulative effect thing.
What is going to be eventually. But it's a pretty cool witness and reminder when you do see God working through them or in something.
I suppose that's what you're talking about, Courtney.
Yeah.
So you decided you're going to be a teacher from the very beginning.
Yes.
From the very beginning.
Day one of kindy. Courtney came home. I was like, I'm set.
I just loved it. I don't know how to explain it. I still love it. So
you actually like helping other people learn something?
Not even just learning. I just like helping other people.
Okay.
I think just in general, if I've got any opportunity to help someone, I want to do it. So I feel like teaching allows you to do that and do it in a really active way over a period of time.
And you can see them change.
Yeah, I've taught a lot of kids that needed a lot of love, and I feel like I've been able to be that for them. And I think that is the awesome thing about being a teacher who's a Christian. I teach in a Christian school now, but I haven't always. And when I was working in the public system, I just loved being a teacher who was a Christian in the public system with kids who didn't get any love at home or didn't get any love from their community, and getting to be that for them. So that's what I love about teaching the most. I love teaching and I love helping kids learn, but I mostly just love the fact that you get to be there for them for a whole year.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like as we near the end of school, it's like as teachers, you're like, I've got invested in these children for an entire year, and now they're leaving. Is that hard when they depart?
It can be. I think that sometimes you kind of think, okay, I think these kids are going to be better off learning from someone new now. And so you really can think about it that way. It's like, okay, well, I've given them all I can give them and they need to learn from someone new now. But sometimes you just have that class that you just adore and you would like to do another year with. And that's really hard. Yeah. So like I loved my class this year.
Especially like the next year.
What year have you always taught the same year?
No.
Primary school.
Primary trained. Yeah. So I taught a 3-4 and then...
Oh, like a composite?
Yep. And then 2 years of 2-3, which was really interesting and a bit tricky. Yeah. And then this past year I taught year 6.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of like a big... I feel like, you're very... It'd be a very different experience teaching someone in year 2 than year 6.
Yeah, it was.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was really different, but it's also really fun. Yeah. And it's cool seeing them at different stages of development and seeing where they're at in their lives and what they're learning at that certain point compared to what they're learning when they're going into high school.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a different thing to say like, oh, yeah, I'll see you later when you're in year 2 to see you later when you're in year 6.
Yeah.
Like that's a much bigger kind of drop off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool.
for sure.
So what uni did you study at?
I went to the University of Notre Dame.
Oh, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
There's a private uni kind of thing. Oh, I suppose all unis are private, aren't they?
It's just really well known for having a great teaching program.
Okay.
So that's why I went there.
Now that's in the city. Mm-hmm. Where in the city is it?
It's across the road from UTS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, it's a really great university. And the thing that I love the most about it is you don't get in based on ATAR, which is really interesting.
What do you get in based on?
Interview. So you go in for an interview and
I feel like your mum would have prepared you very well for an interview.
My mum prepares me very well for all my interviews.
Okay.
My dad's really good at it too, actually. But I also really like interviewing because I just feel like it gives you a good sense of the school, like now that I'm interviewing for teaching jobs, but it also in this case gave me a good sense of the uni from how they treated me in the interview and what we talked about and that kind of thing. So they try to get to know the person and they put the person into the uni, not the number, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I do like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And are there lots of gargoyles?
What does that mean?
Because the Notre Dame Cathedral in France has like gargoyles and stuff on it. Just my teachers.
It's a pretty normal uni.
Is there many people there though?
No, it's small.
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty small. And so your classes feel kind of a bit like school.
Oh,
so
that would be a different experience.
Yes. I made some really good friends at uni because I saw them every day.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of like those gigantic lecture halls that you sit in.
Welcome to the machine.
Yeah, it's not like that at all at Notre Dame. Like there were, I think, 120 or 30 in my cohort.
Yeah, that's like a high school year.
Yeah.
That's not like it's gargantuan.
Yeah.
Is it the same at Bible college? Do you have big lecture halls and stuff like that?
No, there's way less people.
Yeah, okay.
You start bigger. A lot of people do the 1 year compressed and get a diploma. So your year does start bigger than it ends up being. It's smaller over time. Because you can kind of check out at the end of each year with a different kind of qualification depending on what you want. But yeah, it ends up being quite small. Not quite small, but I guess it depends on where you went to Bible college.
Because both your courses are like, I think are probably different to mine because I just have a lecture and then a tune, lecture and then a tune. But is that how it is at Bible college as well?
No, you don't do tutes.
Oh, you don't do tutes, you just have lectures?
Yeah.
Oh, but they're smaller.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like tutorials anyway.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And
we
similar
did
for teaching
tutes.
too, isn't it? Yeah.
So we did lectures and tutes for every subject.
Yeah.
But the tutes were really long and with
I remember
like 20 people. So
I remember Karen having, I'm like, what because we were going to uni at the same time, like, what do you mean you tutorial for 3 hours? What's that about?
You do some weird stuff in tutes for
Like what?
teaching.
Yeah.
Like charades and like reading picture books and like just having a whole lot of fun playing musical instruments and doing PE classes, and it's pretty awesome.
Pretty varied, isn't it?
So varied, and that's what I loved about it. I think I would have gotten really bored if I was doing the same thing the whole time.
Yeah. I think that's what I got bored with the most, is like, here's the textbook, now we're going to look at the textbook and then make notes. And like, it's not interesting at all, guys.
Some subjects were like that, but not many.
Yeah. Well, most of mine were like that, and not many were interesting. Yeah, so there's a couple that, and the ones that were interesting, I got good marks in, because they're like, oh, this teacher actually cares about it. Where it's like, I remember we used to have this, because I did a business and commerce degree. We used to have marketing, but it was a South African guy. He's like, sport marketing. He'd always say it like that, and he's like,
I love it.
And then he was like, the textbook, he had him for 2 different years, and he had the same textbook author, but it was a different book. It was like, Kotler was his name. Welcome to sport marketing. Open your Kotler books.
My lecturers, I feel like, were all really specific personalities because they're all teachers, right?
Yeah.
So there are some that are like really exuberant and like bright. I had this one who was, she was just sunshine walking, I swear. Like, she would just walk in and be like, good morning, everyone. And we would be like, hello. And then I had some that were kind of the more very straightforward, very clear-cut kind of teacher. And yeah, it was fun.
Did you like digging into like the pedagogical stuff and like how people learn and trying to understand it, or how children learn, I should say?
My favourite subject in the whole of my uni degree was child development.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved learning about how kids learn and learning about how they develop and what they should be doing at certain points in time. And yeah, it was great.
Yeah, how they learn through play and things like that. Yeah.
And then it develops, and then they need more structure. And
what's the guy's name?
Vygotsky.
Vygotsky, and there's another one, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Another pedagogy guy that I'm trying to think of right now.
Why can't I think of him either?
I don't know. No,
Vygotsky, Piaget.
Piaget, that's what I was thinking of.
Yes,
Yeah.
I almost got there. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Are you trying to sound like Piaget then? It's on the tip of my tongue.
I thought I sounded like you, actually.
Kotler.
Kotler.
Sport marketing.
Diplomatic immunity. Took away lethal weapon too.
Is that what that's from? Okay.
Yeah. The South Africans.
Diplomatic
the bad guys.
immunity.
Bad guys and lethal weapon too.
Really?
Anyway, yes.
Ah. So you graduated uni.
Yes.
I did.
Now, for people that don't know, and by the way, there are so many teachers at Soul Revival Church, but it's hard to get a full-time job or a permanent job, as they say.
Yes.
How did you go getting a permanent job? Were you able to get one quickly or not?
Yes.
That's good though.
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky. So I got targeted, which basically means, yes.
Sniper.
So I got, you go for an interview with the department, and then they can basically recommend you for being targeted, and you like list a whole bunch of schools you'd be willing to work at.
Right.
And then if a permanent job comes up at one of those schools and you were recommended, then they just give it to you. So that's what happened for me.
Wow.
Where did you go?
Where did I go?
Yeah.
What school?
Yes. Sorry.
A school.
A school. You're not going to name the
A
school?
school in the St. George area.
Okay, there you go. Cool. There you
Yes. So I was there for 3 years.
go. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, so what year was that were you teaching?
When did I start?
No. Oh, yes, you can tell me that. But what, I meant what grade were you
Oh,
teaching?
I started on the 3-4.
Oh, okay.
So I started on the 3-4 in 2020 while they were online.
Oh, rip.
Yeah, so I literally
Far
started
out.
with my first class over a computer screen.
That's like
That's
8-year-olds in front of a computer screen.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was
That's
wild.
so hard.
That is wild.
It was wild, but it was awesome, and I loved then getting to know them. So
Yeah.
I had
Okay.
them for like 5 weeks online, and then I got them
Wow.
in person for the
That's
first
so
time.
crazy.
Yeah,
Was it
pretty
like a
crazy.
blind date or something? Like,
Kind
You're
of.
like, wow, I didn't know you looked completely different on your profile.
Jeffrey, your hair is a different color to what I imagine. Yeah.
Wow, that's so wild.
You have brown eyes.
Well, the kids
How was that?
the kids that dropped off during COVID, like, and just didn't do any school, which
Yeah.
some kids didn't do any work
It's
during
hard- It's
COVID.
hard for some.
Yeah.
You didn't meet them until they came back.
Yeah, right.
that's wild.
So I'm like, oh, hello, child I've never met that I've seen the name of.
yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, it was actually quite funny. So I started at that school. So I was at a different school prior to that, doing some temp contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I started at that school in term 2.
Okay.
And so I had two really good, well, now they're my really good friends. But basically,
They were my enemies before.
well, not my enemies, but I was theirs. So
Oh.
one of my best friends now, she was teaching that class in term 1.
Okay.
And then because I got targeted, they were just like, see ya. And they put me on the class and booted her out.
Wow.
And so she hated me for the first like day. And she was like, oh,
How
What
dare
a
you
day.
be- how you
she's so
dare you be
nice.
targeted.
It's so annoying. Like, she got mad that I was nice. So now we're like best friends. So it's great. Like, it's all worked out for the best.
That's
but
good.
yeah,
But,
she did not like me at
what's
first.
it must have been hard doing a composite class first up too, right?
Yes. Composite classes are really hard.
Yeah,
2
it would
3s
be.
are the worst.
The worst
Well, like,
out of
it's like factual that they're the worst because they're cross infants primary.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a big jump.
Yes.
And it's a
different
big jump.
stage. It's a different stage.
Yeah. So cross stage is hard.
Yeah,
And I
that
did that
would
for
be
2
hard.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you've got a young year 2 person and a like young as in like developmentally young year 2 and a developmentally old year 3, that's a massive jump. isn't
Yeah, it would be.
Wow.
And also, as I've witnessed, being a teacher when you're first starting, you got to develop all your programs and do a lot of work outside of school to make it, if you care about it, which I'm sure you did.
Yes.
So you do have to do all that work. Then you've got to do a cross stage as well.
Yeah. Well, the 3 4 was okay because they're the same stage.
Yeah,
But then the
Yeah.
2 years
The
of
2,
2 3s
3.
were really hard.
yeah, definitely.
I learnt so much though, and
Yeah,
people
that's
was
interesting, yeah.
people were so supportive, and like the stage 1 and the stage 2 teams were awesome with me, and
that's good.
yeah, they would share programs, and I would kind of combine the 2 programs together, and I learnt heaps, and I think so. It was really good that I kind of ended up in that situation because
Like your career development kind
Yeah.
of thing of getting better at doing it.
I learnt a lot really quickly.
Something that you mentioned before was that you went on mission trips.
I did.
So where does that fit in this timeline?
I was at uni.
Okay.
Yes.
So while you're at uni, so sorry to rewind a little bit.
That's all
but
right.
What was that like? How did you get involved and where did you go?
Yeah, okay. I love talking about my mission trips because I don't talk about them very often. But
Yeah, I didn't know that you went on them.
yeah, so I went on a mission trip. It sounds funny because they're places quite nearby. So my first one was to the northern beaches. And then my second one that I ran was on the Central Coast.
Okay.
So basically it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done because it was walk-up evangelism.
Yeah.
So basically you literally walk up to people on the beach and you're like, hey,
How's it going?
I'm from Power to Change. Do you know Jesus? And it's like really scary. Or we would like go over to them in the park and like ask them. So we had like some tools that we would use on our mission trips, and they were like kind of like games. And so you guys would probably love them. Actually, they're super cool. There's like these cards that yeah, it does play like a game, but it gets you to know the person, and it kind of seems like a survey tool or something. And then it kind of usually ends in a really complex, awesome conversation about God. So
Really?
yeah, it was honestly the most terrifying thing I've ever done, but it was also the most rewarding thing I've ever done because we saw a few people come to Jesus and we got to connect them into churches, and it was really cool. Like I'm much more for relational evangelism personally. I feel really passionate about friendship and then kind of building on that and eventually inviting them to church and using it that way. But to step out in faith, it was a good way of doing it because it just forced you to. You had to.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in it?
Yeah, so Power to Change was the Christian group at my uni.
Okay.
So I had a really good friend who suggested that I get involved. We were a secret undercover Christian group though, because they would only let the Catholic group run in the uni. So we met in a church across the road.
Oh, to Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Yeah. So we met in a church across the road. And then, we were secret. But a bunch of people joined us and it was pretty cool. And we saw a lot of people become Christians through Power to Change. It's a really awesome organization.
Oh, fantastic.
And then the one that I ran in my final year of uni, so it was the summer after I finished uni. It was the same thing again, but beaches on the Central Coast instead of the northern beaches, and shopping centres and stuff as well, food courts and whatever else. I remember one day when we were there in the shopping centre, my friend and I were just done. And we were both like the more experienced kind of people on the trip. And we got paired together that day. We were really excited about it. And then we were both like, we don't want to do this today. And she was like, yeah, I really don't want to do this today. And so we just sat down in the shopping centre and we were like, God, we know that this is really selfish, but if you want us to talk to someone, can you just like let them sit down next to us? And we were like, so not like, we thought nothing would come of it. Like we were just like, yeah, God's not going to reward us for just sitting down. But we talked to like 10 people that day, and like a few of them we had gospel conversations with. And so I guess that God used our laziness that day. But it was a really good way. Oh, we went pubs as well. That was really fun, but also quite daunting, is like going and sitting down with a bunch of drunk people and being like, hey, do you know Jesus? But they're the most warm, fun people to kind of talk to in that space, I guess, because they're kind of ready to talk to people that they haven't met before in a pub or in a bar or whatever. Yeah, it was interesting.
Is there any, like, you just obviously told us 2 stories, but is there like a really high point of doing, is it called a beach mission?
Kind of, yeah.
Beach mission, okay. What is there a real high point of either of those 2 trips that you...
I wouldn't say there was like a particular, like one moment that I can really recall. I think that the high point for me of my first mission was half of the people were from Sydney and half were from Perth. And I made some really, really, really good friends from Perth. And one of them came back on my 21st birthday and she visited me. And it was so awesome just knowing that there were these cool group of Christians from another state that also wanted to step out in faith for the gospel. And that mission trip was pretty small. There were only like, I want to say there were like 20 of us, maybe even less. And we became so close and
serving together.
It was the community. Yeah. And that was the thing that I really felt on that trip. And it was amazing. Yeah.
And when you say you had to run one, what does that mean? Like you have to organise where everyone's staying and all that kind of thing?
Yeah, but it was great.
I just recently saw a Seinfeld clip of George when he's like, I've been practicing looking busy. And they're like, well, how are you doing that? He's like, I just look annoyed all the time. Is that what you were doing?
No, because I
So
wanted
you're
to get
super
to
annoyed.
know them, but I was genuinely quite busy trying to get stuff organised. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, cool.
It's funny, I actually work with one of the girls now that I went on that trip with.
Oh, that's cool.
It was cool.
Very nice.
Cool how it comes around. We have had James on the podcast before.
You have?
I can't remember if we had James on before you were married or after.
I think it was just after.
I think it was after.
Yeah, because I think, yeah. How did you meet James?
That's a funny story.
Excellent.
And I think on his podcast, I've listened to it once or twice. Only once or twice.
I thought you were like, I've listened to it 7 times.
Once a week.
No. And he tells the story, and I think you were like, oh, well, we're going to have to get Courtney on to tell her side of the story.
Well, that was, I think you and Braden and Ethan did that one.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we were upstairs at church.
I think it was during
raining.
the week.
It was raining so hard
It was-
that we decided to film it in the upstairs rooms. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the 7th listen,
Oh,
you realised that we...
on the second listen.
Yeah.
Yes. I met James at church.
Yep.
So I think he told this story, but basically one of his mates was dating one of the girls from Soli's. I'd been coming to Soli's for a month at the time.
Who was this? Can we name them?
I mean, she's married now, so and not to that guy.
You can find out later on our Patreon.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Sorry.
So those people, and so he was coming to meet her, and I was just at church hanging out with her, and so I met his roommate at the time, who was dating my friend.
Yes.
And that's how I met him. Yeah. So we were just chatting and I thought he was cute. And so I was kind of flirting a little bit, maybe.
The way that girls tell a story and then guys tell a story is so funny. Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
And I was holding a baby. I remember this.
Which baby?
I actually don't remember. It was like 4 years ago. So I think it was Huxley.
Yeah,
it could be.
Yeah, I think it was Huxley. And I was like, hey, come over. Like, look at the baby. And he was like, no.
It's a ranger.
I'm hanging out with my friends.
No.
Anyway, so after I left, I was like, okay, I went in this part. I don't even know if he knows.
Ooh.
Yes.
The scoop.
Straight off hot off the press.
I go into church with my friend who his roommate was dating.
Yes.
And I went over to her and I was like, he's really cute. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do about it, but I really want to get to know him. And she was like, do it. So I was like, okay, well, how am I going to ever see this guy again? Like, he was only coming to visit. Like, he wasn't a member of Soli's. Like, how would I hang out with him again? So as he left the church, they like all left and I like made sure they'd left and I added them all on Facebook. So his mate and his other mate who was there and him, I made sure I added him last because I didn't want him to know that I liked him. Smart. So I added his two mates and he was still with them when I added all three of them. And so he saw my name pop up on his friend's phone, then on his other friend's phone, and then on his phone. And then the next day, I sent him like a thumbs up.
This is I'm enjoying this a lot. Yeah. I love the strategy. It's great.
And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go with the story that was an accident. It was not an accident. And I told him for the whole time we were dating, it was an accident. Once we got engaged, I told him I did it on purpose.
Yeah, you're stuck with me now.
So
lie.
I sent him the thumbs up emoji and just left it and was like, if he's not keen, like he's not going to message me back. The thumbs up is just like harmless. Yeah, let's see what happens.
Just go into the ether.
And then we texted the whole of the next day and then the rest is history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well done on making it
thumbs
happen.
up, Court.
Thumbs up to Courtney.
Courts took a move. She made a move. I'd never had a boyfriend before either. And so I was just like, this guy is cool. And I just like want to get to know him. So, yeah.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yep. There's many other stories that go along with it. But
sometimes it's like, even if you think, like Karen and me getting together, it was like we were friends for like 3 years before. I like it that you were just like, there he is, and I'm going to contact him straight away. I appreciate that.
I just, didn't want to miss that.
Got to shoot your shot.
Yeah, you got to shoot your shot. I think on his podcast, he also told the story of how we got engaged. And I would like to
some factual correction.
to correct it. because it was
Love this.
it was not particularly correct.
Because Amanda said the same thing about Zach.
He made himself sound better than he was.
Yes. He's good.
No, I love you, darling. Okay,
I love
here we
it. You
go.
looked into the camera too. That was so good.
So
I'm clipping that. I love you, darling. But you're wrong.
basically, I told him I do not want to get engaged until we have been engaged. Sorry, dating for a year, right?
Okay.
That was my cap. I was like, I do not want to be engaged before a year.
Yeah.
And so good old James was like, you know what? I'm going to propose just before a year so that she doesn't see it coming.
Well, yeah.
So
So smart.
he proposed
Otherwise,
at like 11 and a half months.
Mm-hmm.
I think he said on the podcast that he proposed at a year, which is a lie. It was 11 and a half months.
This
And-
relationship is built on a bit of lies. Because you're like, oh, I didn't mean to thumbs up.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Culpable
I
of
just
both
was
ends.
embarrassed, you know?
At the start. At the,
Yeah.
No, and then we basically hung out with his family all day and then went down to the beach. And I was kind of like not expecting it at all because it wasn't a year yet. I wasn't like even thinking that it was possible. And then I realized, I'm like, we're going to Stanwell Park Beach. That's where he said, I love you for the first time. Like this could be a thing.
Yes.
So he kind of came over to me and was like, opened my door and like let me out of the car. And I saw him put something in his pocket and I was like, sus. So I patted him down. I tried to be like, is there a
Are you
ring in
packing
there?
heat for
And after I said, you're not proposing, are you? And he was like, no.
No.
And so I was like, I believed him, Joel. I believed him. And so I went into the rest of this night just not even thinking anything of it. I was like, no, he's not proposing. All good. He said no.
Yeah. What a lovely evening.
So we like lay out on the beach on this picnic blanket and I was like, this is kind of sus. Okay. So sorry, I teach 12-year-olds. And he just like gave me compliment after compliment for the whole night. And I was just like, what are you doing?
Stop complimenting me.
what are you doing?
You never, because you never do this this frequently.
Like he'll compliment me, but not in a row, like multiple times.
It's like 5 things to do before you get engaged. Like compliment lots.
He basically gave me the speech, but without like getting on his knee, you know? And then he finally was like, okay, I was like, it's time to go. It's getting late. And he was like, yeah, time to go. And he asked me to hop up. And so I got up off this picnic blanket and he was like, hey, will you help me pack it up? I'm like, no, you do it. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I'll help you if you want. He's like, no, you need to pack up the picnic blanket. I was like, what? You help me. And he was like, no. Anyway, so we had this like back and forth bickering moment.
So you got to fight about it.
Eventually, we weren't fighting. It was just like a little bickering.
Yeah.
And then he flipped the picnic blanket over for me because he was like, okay, fine. And he flipped it over.
What?
And
You're ruining the plan.
this is the best part. In masking tape, he had written, will you marry me on the other side of the picnic blanket.
So good.
On the bottom part of
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, oh yeah, I just wrote it on the picnic blanket and it was beautiful. He never tells people it was in masking tape. But I think it was like pretty cute. And I'm like, why didn't you get it like embroidered or something?
Do you still have the picnic blanket?
We do.
With masking tape?
We do.
Yeah.
When you flipped it over, was it the right way up as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
that's good.
But I then was like not expecting it at all, right? And I'm like,
What do I say?
and so then I was like, you're early. And he goes, what? And I'm like, you're early. And he goes, yeah. So? And I'm like, Oh, yeah. So I was just shocked. And so now on the inside of his wedding ring, he's got "You're early"
that's
written in
cool.
there.
That's so funny.
What a lovely story. That's heaps fun.
That's the
Yeah.
story.
And then
Then
you got married the day before,
No, the day of.
the day of locking down.
Of locking down.
The lockdown wedding.
Yes, the lockdown wedding. It was pretty fun though. I liked it.
Did you?
I mean, I didn't get to dance with my dad, which was sad. But other than
That
that,
is sad.
it was a pretty awesome day. We had a great
Oh, because
time.
dancing wasn't allowed.
no.
You
Is that right?
only the
It's
bridal party.
Footloose rules. No dancing.
No dancing.
I just remember because it got locked down partway through it was like right after the ceremony.
Yeah.
Well, this is my recollection of it. Is after the ceremony, it was kind of like, oh, we're going to be locked down tomorrow. Like that was kind of the call that had been made. And so it was like, oh, well, this reception is going to be the last time we're all going to get to hang out for a long time. So made for a good party.
Have at it.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like, oh,
Yeah.
make the
Is that what
most
it was
of
like?
it.
Everyone had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a shame people couldn't dance because I feel like it would have just gone off.
And you had a band that was really cool.
They were
I was
epic.
I was bummed. I was right next to the band. I was like, you guys are killing it, but no one can dance. And so I kind of felt,
yeah,
I felt
that
bad
sucks.
for them.
But the
But they
band
put on a
was,
show.
They were so good.
Yeah,
and they
they were
played
sick.
all of the best hits.
Yeah.
Jam Nation shout out.
Yeah. They were
Great band.
Oh, that's what they called. Sorry.
Jam
I thought you were
Nation.
saying a song Jam Nation. I'm like, I don't
No.
know that classic.
They're great. They're
wow.
so good. We had a great time. And I mean, we couldn't go on our honeymoon or anything, but it was still a beautiful day and we got married and that's what matters. So
Where were you planning to go for your honeymoon before you couldn't?
nowhere crazy. So we ended up being able to go on half of it. We were staying in this little isolated cabin in the Blue Mountains.
Yeah.
So we
heard
and our house was being renovated while we were on our honeymoon, and it had already started, and so we didn't have anywhere to go after our wedding. Like we had to go on a honeymoon
Yeah, right.
because we didn't have a bed or a house to go back to. So we ended up going to the little isolated cabin in the Blue Mountains and just being like, it's a change of residence because we didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And they didn't mind because of that. So we stayed there for 7 days, isolated. We didn't see anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we came back and we actually did the second half of our honeymoon at his parents' house.
Wow.
Party.
Yeah.
Party!
Very salubrious location for his parents out.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And a little, we did a weekend in the middle at my parents' house. And then we could move into our apartment after that, which was great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's a great apartment. We're very happy. Yeah, you used to live there in the building.
Same building. They're very large units. I miss living there.
They're just we're on the bottom floor and it's a bit dark. It's the only struggle.
Yep.
Yep. It's good luck.
And
Good.
your light shines.
James actually made this really awesome pallet wall in our living room. So it's all pallets and he's
masking tape.
drilled the no masking tape, drilled them all together and
Yeah.
strung fairy lights through the whole back of it. So
Nice.
that brings a good amount of light, which is nice.
That'd be very nice.
Yes.
Yes.
It's very Soli's. Because we have plants on it and stuff. Yeah.
I like that. It's a good segue because I'm wondering when you decided to come to Soul Revival. Was it? Did you come to Soul Revival with your friend? So that's when you met James.
No.
Okay, so you were coming to Soul Revival before then.
Yeah, for a month.
Okay,
Yeah.
only a month.
Yeah. Not very long. So
You Anderson girls like to meet men at.
Katie met
Soul
Ethan
Revival.
before Soul Revival.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they met at a camp.
But there's always a bit of relationship involvement in bringing people to you guys to Soul Revival Church, anyway.
Yeah. So no, I was going to Soli's before I met James.
Yep.
But I moved from Menai to Soli's just after my parents did. So Katie moved about a year before Mum and Dad did, and then Mum and Dad moved. And then maybe 3 months later, I was coming with Mum and Dad a little bit because I was just Katie seems to love this church and I want to know what's going on. And so I came a few times and I was still living at home and Mum and Dad were like, it's really fun, Court, you'll like it. And I did. And then I moved and I love it. Yeah.
I think we didn't wrap up. So what about because let's talk about youth leading, because you were leading youth at Menai.
Yeah, so I led kids, and then I ran the creche and led youth at the same time at Menai, and then now I lead youth and I sing.
Yes, you do sing. So lots of serving going on. I was just going to ask about youth leading, and you've talked about how much you love doing it at Soul Revival.
Yeah.
But did you have great leaders when you were at youth? So is that why you wanted to do youth leading?
I did. I had wonderful leaders when I was at youth. I work with a few of them now, and they're really lovely and wonderful. I think that the main reason why I wanted to lead youth is because I feel like it's at this point in their lives where a lot of things change for them, and they're going through quite a lot of friendship issues and moments of not really knowing who they are as people. And I wanted to be a constant in that space.
Yeah. And that's one of the, we've talked about a number of times, like spending a lot of time with each other. It's one of the beauties of youth leading is you're doing it consistently. And if they do come every week, it's every week. It is a source of stability for young crew to come along, and then also to have the stability built into that of what God provides, like that foundation as well. I think it's really cool to be able to do that. Tell us about singing though too, because you mentioned singing. What you said that you really enjoy music.
Yeah, I love music. Yeah.
Music that is, Christian music. Tell us why. Like, why do you like? Because by the way, I think you've got a great voice.
Oh, thanks.
Tell us why you like it.
Well, I started singing lessons at 6. So I've been singing for a long time.
And so did you want to be a singer before you wanted to be a teacher?
No. I mostly sang at church. That's the reason why I got singing lessons at all. Mum and Dad put me in them because I liked it and
wanted to do it.
Yeah. I just love being able to allow everyone else to sing. And that's my big thing. Like, I don't really want to be up there for me. I don't want to be up there because I think that I want to sing in front of people or whatever. I want to allow everybody else to be able to praise God in a way that is really, like, I want to be servant-hearted in that way. But I also feel really connected to God when I sing. So I find it to be a really awesome opportunity for me as well.
Can you tell me more about why you feel really connected to God when you sing?
Yeah.
Because I would suggest that I don't feel that way. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I think that it's the lyrics in the songs is what allows me to feel that way the most. And yeah, just like hearing all of these truths about the Bible shared in a different format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think you're also responding.
Okay.
So there's a lot of the Christian life that's intake and hearing and listening.
We talked about consuming before, right?
No, well, not consuming in a positive manner.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think consuming sometimes can have a negative connotation, whereas that kind of consuming is, it's a massive part of the Christian life. But I think there's a few things you do as a Christian that's responding, prayer, like stepping out in faith, but also like singing and praising is a response to God, which is why I think a lot of people really really enjoy it, and really, even if they aren't musical, they find it a really great experience because you're doing something, you're responding to the things that you've either heard or read, or the lyrics, or maybe just whatever's been going on in your life, you're responding to God through that. And I think that's why prayer is a massive thing, and that's why I think singing and music can be a massive thing for Christian life.
With at church, when you sing, it's a shared response.
Yeah, exactly.
Too, isn't it? Yeah. Which again is the community thing that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I really liked when you said, Courtney, that when you're singing at the front, you're trying to help lead the congregation to sing. But as our arts pastor is here, I may as well ask the question. I think that's a really healthy approach to take to it. Do you want to just speak to that a little bit more? Because obviously you do actually lead Courtney in that, but you obviously see her do that too, right?
Yeah, totally. I think that's the point of having a band up the front, or I mean, you're actually leading the church in singing. Like that's why it's called, like it's band leading or
Music
like
ministry.
music ministry rather than like say just I don't know being
Performing.
you're not performing. And that's what I think dictates a lot of the choices that I guess the musical choices that I guess you make when you're practicing. Like Court would know, like you pick keys. You don't necessarily pick the key that's going to make Courtney sound the best.
No.
You pick the key that people are going to be able to sing to.
And,
You make musical choices that are easier to understand so that people will sing confidently. And you don't just and like
feel
that
able to sing.
yeah, exactly. You're facilitating people in singing rather than and you can do fun things within that. But yeah, that's the main reason that you're up there, and I think that's the lens that you look at everything through when you're trying to put stuff together.
Yeah, it's kind of like almost they don't sing high for a lot of the males in the congregation, but also don't sing too low for a lot of the females in the I always find that a really interesting, I don't know, dynamic that you have to be really careful of.
Yeah, we play around with it a bit, especially if we've got a female and a male singer. We'll like test the key for both of us to make sure that it's going to be something that people can sing. Yeah.
But yeah, I really appreciate playing with Court, and I've played with Court a lot. And it's because we're coming from the same angle. It makes things really easy and fun. And I think it's the other thing that is selfish about music ministry that I think Court might echo as well. It's actually really fun too.
It's so fun.
Yeah, it's fun getting to use gifts that God's given you in a creative way.
Yeah.
In terms of serving as well.
But that's true, isn't it? Because with other ways of serving, you often can't, like in that moment, use your gifts to do something in a creative way.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you're on, I suppose you can be creative with dinner, but then when you're serving dinner, it's like you're just serving dinner to people, and that's fine. Like there's no problem with that, but it's an interesting spin on it, isn't it? That you can be creative in it. But
I guess you're being creative in the practice time, but then when you're actually playing and leading, you're trying to do it in a way that is facilitating the singing. So I guess there's two different ways where like it kind of lines up there in some kind of way. But yeah.
No, that's cool. And as you said, Braden, it's good that you guys are really aligned on that. So you can still try and lead the congregation well, but also try and be a bit creative in it. But you're still trying to do it for serve everyone else.
And I think there is something really cool that happens when you're playing music outside of church. You can get really locked in and be like, oh, this is sick. There's like 4 or 5 of us really locked in and playing together. But say like, I don't know, when you've got a big Easter service or a Christmas service or something, and you have the 4 or 5 or 6 whatever people on stage locked in, you also have another 200, 300 people locked in as well. And it really feels like you're doing it together. I think that's really cool.
You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love doing band with Bray. It's great.
That's cool. It's really nice that you guys love doing that together.
Yeah, it's just I'm gonna give you compliments, Braden, so be prepared.
not James.
I'm gonna go get a glass of water.
I just love the way that you lead with such a servant heart, and because Braden is our band leader, the way that he guides all of us and gives us the best chance to use our skills within a servant-hearted context. And I just always feel like I'm really well looked after when Braden is leading the band. So
awesome. No, that's really
I think the fun thing of doing stuff with Court as well is that we played music together at Woolaware with like 10 people. And then we've also played music together like we will on Saturday at Carol's with a lot more than 2.
A lot more people.
So it's really fun to get to put the same kind of heart and that's what I appreciate about Court is like we put the same amount of heart and effort into doing it at Woolaware as we will on Saturday, which is what's really fun and serving about it.
Yes. Yeah. That's really cool.
Carol's going to be fun.
Yeah. It's going to be very
This
fun.
will come out the week
after Carol's.
I hope you had fun.
Carol's was sick.
We hope the weather was good.
It's looking all right so far.
It's looking like it's just going to be hot.
That's okay.
That's okay though. We can handle that because it's it's cooling down
They
as we
put
do.
new shade things on the thing. You know how they they had that weird like strap shade thing at Southledge, and then someone pulled it down, and now they've put a proper shade.
Perfect
thing there.
timing.
Ooh.
Like, wow.
Very good.
Crazy concept.
Crazy concept. Put up some more shade in this gigantic green space.
Yeah.
Let's ask the final question, Courtney, because it's been really fun.
Yeah.
All this stuff. Yeah. What do you wish you knew as a younger Christian that you do know now as an older Christian?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think I have thought about an answer to that one before.
That's all right.
I think that I wish I knew when I was a younger Christian how good God is and how in control He is, and that I didn't need to worry about being perfect or being impressive or any of those things, because he had me in His hands. So I think that's what I would tell my younger self. I also think I would tell my younger self to not be anxious as well, because God is good and He knows what He's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my favorite Bible verses is about that, and I go back to that one all the time.
What is it?
It's in the Psalms. I always forget. I think it's 94:19, but I would have to check that, which says, when anxiety is great within me, your consolation brought joy to my soul. And I think I remember a lot that not only does God console us and comfort us like a father, but He also brings joy to us. And I love both of those things in that verse.
I think that is a really good summation of what you've talked about today too. That there have been things that you've been worried about, but God has taken care of it, and then you found a lot of joy in doing a lot of those things.
Yep.
I think that's been, what a great way to sum it up.
Yeah.
That was really cool, wasn't it? But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming on late notice as well, only a few days notice.
Pleasure.
Well, you're not teaching at the moment, so that's great.
I'm on break. Holiday Courts is here.
Are you just doing heaps of Christmas shopping? Is that what you're doing?
That's what I did yesterday.
I didn't know that because my wife is doing the same thing. But yeah, it's been really lovely. And again, I know I say this almost every episode, but your story is not boring. And to hear your story has been really special. And again, this is why we do this podcast, is to hear stories like yours. So thank you very much for coming on. It's been really special. Braden, do you have any final words?
Just thanks so much for coming on, Court.
Pleasure.
I love getting to youth lead and play music with you. And I think it's also, some of the stories I knew, some of them I didn't, which is always really fun about having people on that.
That story about James was mad.
I can kind of remember parts of James's version now, but yeah, I
like it.
You can compare and contrast in your own time if you're listening along.
I can't remember what episode number James's was, but
we can put it in the show notes.
Making me do extra.
I think
I mean Joel.
It doesn't have a bio. I remember that much. It's called "Wouldn't Change a Thing." There you go. Shout out.
All right, I'll put something. Watch this for James's poor version of the proposal story.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up. Thank you very much again, Courtney. Thank you for everyone that's listening or watching. We really appreciate it. And as always, Brandon will finish texting just for a second.
I was looking up what.
Oh, you're looking up what episode
it is.
Oh, okay. Short.
I'm on
pause. We'll play.
Wouldn't change a thing. Episode 30.
Episode 30, and you're 109.
109.
It's a big gap. 70 odd episodes in between.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
Cool.
But we also said that your whole family is taken care of on the Chip Lunch podcast.
Yeah,
now.
so
You've all been on.
feel free to listen to my family's episodes, I guess.
Compare and contrast the many different views of.
Love you, Mum.
I saw Katie's one was so funny when she said that. Like
was I
she
on
saw
Katie's one?
No, it was me and Gemma.
Yeah.
And she saw Ethan, and like there was this light shining behind his head. And I can't remember what it was, but it was hilarious. It was like it's like the spectre of God.
She's funny.
Yeah.
I like her.
Yeah. We do too. All right, let's finish up. Thank you
all
again,
good.
Courtney. One way.
Thanks,
On my-
guys.
One way.